I love when we get new games that were old games that are brought back new again. I know that sounds convoluted. Stick with me. We're going to go places on this one. I love the fact that Retrobit continues to offer new and exciting releases to those who may have missed out in the past. One such example is Battletoads and Double Dragon. They came out with a special edition for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Famicom, and also this version here for the original Nintendo Entertainment System. And this thing is absolutely awesome. Well, they are back at it again with a new version of this game, this time for the Game Boy, and another game back there that we're going to talk about as well. So let's get started. That's right, Battletoads and Double Dragon are coming back again, but not for the NES. We've already got that. Not for the Super NES. We've got that too. This is coming for the original Game Boy. As you can see here, Battletoads and Double Dragon, the Ultimate Team, was released in December of '93 and developed by Rare with licensing from Technōs Japan. It had ports across various consoles, and this was the first title in the series where all three Battletoads were playable. So you had Rash, Zitz, and Pimple, which is actually really, really cool. Now, the nice thing about this, too, is it also combines the Battletoads with Double Dragon and makes it just a great beat-em-up. As the story goes, the evil queen, Dark Queen, manages to escape the Toads and joins forces with the Shadow Boss. Aboard the rat ship, Colossus, they decide to attack Earth. Seeking additional muscle, they enlist the help of Billy and Jimmy Lee, not Bimmy and Jimmy, the Double Dragon twins, the masters of Sosetsukan, martial art, and renowned street brawlers. So, the thing about this is I love what Retrobit does with these types of games because the originals on these aren't cheap on the secondary market anymore. They ain't making any more new ones directly from them. So in North America, a copy of the Game Boy cartridge, loose, you're looking $30 to $60. You can see here, complete $90 to $1,200, and CIB $250 to $3,000. So that's a huge chunk of change. Well, so they are working to bring this back to the masses in a way that you can get it at a reasonable price and still enjoy it if what you want to do is play the original game that's officially licensed, that'll work on original hardware, and you're not downloading a ROM illegally from the web. So the developers did their best to bring this awesome beat-em-up to the portable console with very few limitations. Enemies are limited to 2 on a screen max. Many attack animations have been simplified just to deal with the lack of processing power from the Game Boy. Environments on stages have been reduced. Bosses will have different attack sequences, and it's a single-player only game. With such an action-packed title on the Game Boy, its popularity over the years has grown, with new sealed copies selling for over $3,000. Its steady rise is not only a testament to its rarity, but also the timeless appeal. This is a great game. I used to have it. I don't have it now. But this is one of the things that I'm excited that it's coming back up. Gameplay, very similar to the Super NES and the NES games, just scaled down and reduced so that it'll work better on the original Game Boy. And as you can see here, taking a beat-em-up that performed really well on other consoles and minimize it down to the smaller Game Boy screen was no easy task. The developers were able to keep the sprites at about the same size as they were on the NES while keeping a high level of detail despite only using 4 colors. Combining both worlds of Double Dragon and Battletoads means you'll face foes from both of the franchises, and even though the Game Boy is limited due to its hardware, this was a great port of this game. Like I said, I've had it in the past. I don't have it currently. Players will miss out on multiplayer, sure, but the fighting, racing, shooting platform, that's all still there in this original. Well, here you can see they're coming out with the Battletoads Double Dragon for the original Game Boy, where it's going to have the the case with the numbered hardcover packaging, a detailed instruction manual, the Ultimate Team Green cartridge for Game Boy compatible consoles. And with this, you're going to have a limited number, and they are going to be serialized. And once they're done, they're done. They don't do reprints on these. It's pretty much one and done. And the nice thing, too, pretty reasonably priced. I mean, $45, $44.99 in the U.S., $69.99 Canadian, $49.99 in Europe. And that does, again, get you the cartridge, the hardcover packaging, and the detailed instruction manual. And this is one of those things that I absolutely love the versions that they've done on the NES, on the Super NES. Great game. These pre-orders are open now from March 11th through April the 13th. But this next one we got to talk about. Oh yeah, this one talks to my heart. I mean, admittedly, I gave this away in the intro, but RC Pro-Am 2, like, I love the original game so much. I have a loose copy. I also have a complete in box copy that I bought at, I can't remember if I got this at the Mo Game Con or if I got this in Milwaukee at Midwest Gaming Classic, but I do have a complete in box version of the original, and I do own a loose copy of the second game, and it's so, so good. Let's take a closer look. So RC Pro-Am started on the NES, we know that, but you also got RC Pro-Am 2 on the NES, Super RC Pro-Am on the Game Boy, and Championship Pro-Am on the Sega Genesis. Retrobit, if you're listening to me, I would love to get remasters of all of them, or not remasters, but re-releases, so please, 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 I love you lots. Thank you. So the thing with RC Pro-Am, at least the original one, was it was single player. And then on other games, you did get some multiplayer aspects to it, like on Super RC Pro-Am, you could use the hub and everything on the Game Boy. Now, the second entry, RC Pro-Am 2, came late in the lifespan of the NES, and that's one of the reasons, A, it's expensive, and B, it's so damn good. It is just amazing. You get more weapons, upgrades, tracks, environments, and bonus rounds. You can now play with up to 4 human players on the same screen, and the series would also see, like I mentioned, the entries onto the Genesis and on the Game Boy that allowed multiple players via the link cable. Now, RC Pro-Am 2 stood out amongst other racers and games on the NES, with it being considered one of the best games on the console. On top of it being a great game, it was one of the handful of games that supported 4 players. Its limited distribution towards the end of the console's lifespan also meant it was hard to find even years later after the release. Over the years, its rarity amongst both fans and collectors has seen prices rise pretty much everywhere where you can get it. Loose, you're looking $50 to $100, I think, or $125. I think that's what I paid for mine, between $100 and $125 2 or 3 years ago. Complete, $200 to $300. New in box, $450 to $1,400. Even more expensive in Europe. I will say at some point, I do want to collect both a Japanese version of RC Pro-Am and RC Pro-Am 2 for the Famicom. In Europe, it had an even smaller release and run natively, and that's one of the reasons why that game is even more expensive over in PAL territories. Now, launched near the end of '92, Rare launched the sequel to RC Pro-Am with RC Pro-Am 2, as it came as a surprise, as the Super NES had already launched by the time this was announced. Once players got their hands on the game, however, the improvements made over the previous entry were apparent. Races were viewed in an isometric overhead angle, and your finishing position will net you points, unless you finish last, and then it is game over. And you do have different vehicles you can switch to along the lines as you progress up through. And the neat thing was, being an RC racer myself, like, these are legit upgrades that I would have done to my car. Faster motors, more, at that time it would be an extra cell, going from a 6-cell to a 7-cell battery. You know, things like that really spoke to me. Plus, you had the weapons. I mean, who didn't love the weapons? Before we had Mario Kart, we had RC Pro-Am and all the weapons. You had a freeze beam, a buckshot, and nitro to bring order to the chaos and let your racer cross the finish line before the rest. The new track designs feature 3 different terrains with additional hazards to avoid in a bonus game, such as Tuggo Truck and Drag Racing. If you really wanted to amp up the fun, you bring 3 other human racers along, and you get to go ahead and compete head-to-head with, like, the Satellite or the Fourscore. Now, with the Retrobit re-release, let's take a look at what we have here, because this, I am so over the moon at this. I do love the fact they call it radio-controlled racing and not remote-controlled racing. It is radio control. The team at Rare has brought even more challenging tracks with more speed, tougher opponents in its second entry, adding a second, third, or fourth player to truly experience some of the best gameplay. So what are you going to get with this? You're going to get the numbered deluxe hardcover box. You're going to get the gray or the Raceway. So Asphalt or Raceway are the different names of the colors that they're doing, depending on if you are in the US or in Europe. Detailed instruction manual. It has that exclusive acrylic cartridge display stand and commemorative stickers. And these display stands that they do, they're really, really well done. Like, you see the RC, I believe that's a truck. Well, it's not a buggy for sure, but I think they're calling that a truck. A stadium truck like an LXT, a JRXT, or an original RC 10T, both of which, the 10T and the JRXT, phenomenal RC trucks from back in this day. Sorry, had to go a bit RC nerd on you there. And pricing, again, you're looking pretty reasonable. $59.99 in the US, $89.99 Canadian, and $69.99 in Europe. And here you get a little bit better of a look at the numbered deluxe hardcover cartridge packaging, the Asphalt RC Pro-Am 2 cartridge with the display stand. I love the little truck that's on there. Detail manual, the stickers as well. Let's see if we have for the NTSC version. Yep, here's the NTSC version. And as you can see, same type of thing. And this is the gray, or I take it back, the Raceway RC Pro-Am 2 8-bit gray cartridge is for PAL territories, and then this black one here, that is for the US territory, or NTSC versus PAL. Man, I am super excited for this. You can pre-order them now from March 11th through April the 23rd, 2025. So much like on their previous releases, it's one and done. When they are sold out, they are gone. They're not going to do another print. The nice thing about all the cartridges they do, whether you're talking about on the NES, Game Boy, Super NES, Sega Genesis, they do things like, they make sure that the cartridge is physically different enough where people can tell at a glance this is a re-release or a licensed reproduction versus being the original batch. Like, you would never confuse this for an original Battletoads Double Dragon. They physically look different. Same thing for the Game Boy Battletoads Double Dragon and for RC Pro-Am 2, where I'm not sure if you can quite see my cartridge back there, but it is your traditional NES gray cart, where this has the two different variants on there. It'll also have the Retrobit Publishing logo somewhere on it, like on the back here. It has it there. They also go ahead and they bevel the edges here on the cartridge connector itself, and these are the correct voltage for what your system is. Now, we've had recent word from other distributors with other games that it's the wrong voltage. I think it was Cabbage Patch Games. They do their due diligence here to make sure that these are the correct voltage. They're not going to damage your system. You can use it with third-party consoles like the Super Retro Trio 3 Plus, things like the Retrons. Those should also work with these cartridges. And with like Battletoads Double Dragon for the Game Boy, that's going to work with the Super Game Boy without any problem. So you can actually play that on your Super Nintendo just like you would any other normal Game Boy game. Plus Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, I think we'll still play those. So overall, what they do to protect the collector's market, like, they really have that in mind, and they're very cognizant of that. I will have a link down below where you will be able to pre-order both of these titles from CastlemaniaGames.com. And the cool thing, too, is you can earn what's called Castle Cash. It's his rewards program where the more you spend, the more you save. And Castle Cash is just like cash. So when there are discounts that are blocked out, you can still use Castle Cash. You've earned it. Speaking of discounts, promo code ROCKSOLID10 will save you 10% off of most items on the website. Pre-orders like this, generally not applicable. So I am super geeked about these. Like, I've really enjoyed the Battletoads Double Dragon, Super Battletoads Double Dragon on the Super Nintendo as well, and I'm looking forward to playing it on the original Game Boy. And like, I'm an RC nerd. I'm a racer. I'm getting ready to go this Friday to go run my Losi 1/12 scale NASCAR car with my Dale Earnhardt Sr. paint scheme. Tell you what, dango, shoot, we're going to go, we're going to turn a left turn, we're going to make another left turn, we're going to make another left turn after that, but we're going to have some fun. And I am looking forward to having fun with both of these titles here. Now, if you want to check out some of the videos we've done with some of the other re-releases from Retrobit, like the Double Dragon Battletoads on the NES, I'll have that link for you right here on screen. Make sure you check it out. I'm sure you're going to love it, and you're going to be excited about this Game Boy version coming too.